Welcome to another show. Back to school means back to STEM learning in after school programs. But there's a new study from the After School Alliance identifying inequities in STEM learning. Now, my guests today are Jodi Grant, Executive Director, After School Alliance, and Laura Overdeck, Chair, Overdeck Family Foundation, and Founder and President. Bedtime Math. Welcome, ladies. Nice to speak with you.
Well, thanks for having us.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
as we know, folks, after school and summer programs, they provide hands-on learning opportunities and a natural space for students to explore, to learn, and to grow. Now, these programs spark students' interest in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And computer science subjects expose them to future career paths and support school day learning, all while developing a new generation of problem solvers. Important. However, inequities do exist and too many young people are missing out. So, Jodi and Laura, just how important is STEM learning in after-school programs for children and youth?
Well, I can jump in.
So go ahead, Laura.
Yeah. Basically, when we look at the need to learn these subjects, I think the pandemic really showed, first of all, why it's important for the whole population to feel comfortable with math and science, not just our high flyers who take jobs in those spaces. With the pandemic, we've been flooded with statistics on contagion and morbidity and mortality and fatality. They're all different numbers. And I think our population was really caught flat-footed. In our country, adults are nervous to calculate the tip. So to then be hit with all these data and statistics this past year, it's hard for people even to know how to interpret, how to question the news, how to understand it. So, and then of course, we also saw at that second level that we're lucky we had people who could then develop a vaccine. That saves lives. So we need a basic level of literacy with science and math throughout all our people. And then we also need our high flyers who are going to go innovate and improve our quality of life. And a lot of that igniting the spark and the love of these subjects does happen after school. It's a very different environment from the classroom.
Okay, so if I was to ask...
And what we know... Oh, go ahead.
If I was to ask you then, what did the After School Alliance's new study find? What's the biggest concern?
So the exciting part is that 6 years ago, for the first time ever, the After School Alliance started asking parents about what kind of STEM activities their kids were exposed to in the after-school space. And we did this because, as you noted, the after-school space is such an extraordinary time for kids to engage in science, technology, engineering, math, computer science in a way that is relevant and exciting and very, very hands-on. And as we've seen the whole STEM curriculum get more and more sophisticated in our space, the great news is that this report shows that it has continued to grow. So for kids that are in after-school programs, their access to STEM learning has grown since 2014. And we're talking about, we're not talking about math homework help. We're talking about, computers and robotics and doing, NBA games and all sorts of activities, maybe, crafting a music recording lab that are taking kids' passions and creating passions too, and really highlighting the STEM as part of that.
Yeah, it's pretty broad. So the study itself, what is it based on? I mean, I've read somewhere something like, 30,000 U.S. families. Is that right?
That's correct. So we surveyed 30,000 families in English and in Spanish to get a sense of where their kids were in the hours after school. And then we've also supplemented it throughout the pandemic because obviously things have been anything but normal since the pandemic began. And this is where the more difficult and more challenging news is, which is that, the two troubling things we found in the survey is, one, when you're thinking about STEM, we still have an issue with girls and our children of color being less likely to do STEM even in after school when it's offered. So we need to work on that. And secondly, that for every child that's in a program, there are 3 more. That is 25 million kids whose parents want them to be in after-school programs, but they can't afford them or they're not available in their community.
Oh,
So
what a
we have
shame.
to
Yeah.
take what we know are opportunities and create more.
That's a lot, isn't it?
And I was just going to
25
add to
million.
that, if you look at the numbers, in a given year, kids are awake for about 5,500 hours. They're in school for only 1,100. I mean, kids don't really spend much time in school, even in normal time. And that means they're spending 4 times as many hours awake outside the classroom as in it. And that's where so much of the inequity happens, because kids who have resources already are more likely to be going to a stronger school district. And then they're also likely to have more access to these fabulous programs after school. They're continuing the learning. They're doing robotics. They're doing chess. They're doing math club. That furthers everything they learn during the day. Often the kids who are not in the strong schools also don't have access after school to great programming, and it just widens the gap. That's exactly the thing we want to go tackle and fix.
Well, I got to admit, every time I, see a bus now or I turn a corner, they seem to be coming home earlier and earlier. So listen, why aren't more after-school programs then providing STEM education?
Well, the good news is we're making it easier and easier for them to do it. So we're creating models, but part of the problem is resources, where, these programs cost money, and we need to have people that are confident themselves in STEM skills providing the programming. And the one good thing I want to flag for all your listeners right now is that for one of the first times ever, there is real money that is coming from the federal government to address learning loss during COVID. And this money can be used for these programs. So we need all your listeners to contact their school board and say, hey, we want these after-school programs in our community, and if they exist in your community, we want them to have more STEM learning, and we want to reach more kids, because the money to build it is there, and we just need to get our school districts to think beyond that seat in the classroom to the possibilities that are out there.
Well, it's fabulous. It keeps them away from the mall as well. And, there's lots of kids today with double parents working, having to be home alone after school. Here's a great thing to be able to do. By the way, folks, if you go to www.afterschoolalliance.org, is everything there, Jodi, to be able to read what we've shared today? Is it all on this site?
All of the information is available on that site and more, including how to advocate for these programs in your community.
Fantastic. All right. Now, let's talk about the Overdeck Family Foundation. What exactly does that do?
So we're basically supporting programs that unlock children's potential. And we do that by fostering educational opportunities both in school and outside, and also starting at birth all the way through.
Wow.
So we have an early childhood portfolio. We have Innovative Schools, which is focused on engaging strong curricula for schools. We have exceptional educators. We support teacher prep programs and teacher development. And then the fourth bucket is, we call it Inspired Minds, and that's all the informal learning that we're talking about today. We have entities like Khan Academy. First Robotics has been a long-time one. And then, of course, groups like After School Alliance, who are out there fighting for good policy that directs funding to, strong programming to increase that access for kids. We think that it's a systemic thing. You got to come at it from all different angles, and so that's what we're trying to do at our foundation.
Well, listeners, don't forget, will you, www.afterschoolalliance, all one sentence, .org, not a .com, .org, O-R-G. Last message, ladies, what do you really want to get home?
So I want, and I think your listeners know this, coming out of COVID, that kids are learning all the time and everywhere, and that we really need to recognize that and seize these learning opportunities that are more and different than just what happens in the classroom, and make sure that all of our kids have opportunities to learn when they're not in school.
Yeah, too many, isn't it? 25 million missing the bus already. Not good. Well, you do a great job. Jodi Grant is the Executive Director, After School Alliance. and Laura Overdeck. She's the chair of the Overdeck Family Foundation. Thank God for them, huh? And the founder and president of Bedtime Math. And thank you for your time. You do a wonderful job. Your project is terrific, and I hope some more people get behind you now.